Teams everywhere are dealing with a serious problem, a productivity problem. It's no secret, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Most tech is too complicated, there are too many time-consuming tasks, and teams aren't getting the info they need to close deals and connect with customers. Don't worry though, HubSpot's customer platform can help. It was built to save time and make your job easier so you can get back to building your business. No more hours wasted on time-consuming tasks, no more chasing down prospect info, no more one system for this, another system for that. HubSpot can help you find leads, reach prospects, and deliver the insights you need to convert them to customers, all in one place. Plus, HubSpot AI can literally do more of your work for you so you can focus more on scaling your business. Because HubSpot knows you have some big growth goals. And they're here to make your productivity problem no problem at all. Visit HubSpot.com to learn how they can help you grow better. Happy Friday, everybody. It's May 3rd. I'm John Weigell here with Ben Berkley, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. There are tons of black markets out there, but did you know about the near $350 billion market for sand? Yeah, we're talking about the stuff that you can never seem to get completely off your towel at the beach today. Sand is the world's second most used natural resource behind water, which has led to scarcity and illegal activities surrounding it. So why would we need so much sand? And why can't we just take it from the desert? And why is there gang warfare around it? We'll get to all that in a bit, but first let's run down the hits and headlines today in business and tech. Starting us off today, going to Peloton. Peloton's CEO of only 2 years, Barry McCarthy, is stepping down, and the company is cutting 15% of its workforce, which is about 400 people, as part of its plan to reduce expenses by over $200 million annually by the end of 2025. Ben, what do you make of this news from Peloton, who was soaring high during the height of the pandemic, but now seems to be at a low?
Yeah, I mean, I think Peloton has always felt like a what goes up must come down kind of story. You mentioned that pandemic spike. It was so sharp.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this was a company that was valued in the low billions before everything shut down. And then there's this like home gym buying boom that took them up to suddenly this $50 billion company. And, you know, they had to go for it and try to make that sustainable, of course. But it wasn't going to be. Like, this is a company that largely deals in pricey luxury products, right, and they're doing so in weird economic times. So there's kind of like a ceiling on how many people it convert into customers. And so it's starting to feel a little bit more right-sized. It feels bad. It's awful to see people losing their jobs, of course, in any situation, you know, but its value is back down into what feels like a more appropriate range, around $1 billion now. You know, they're pulling back from opening brick and mortar locations. They're building deals with huge hotel chains like Hyatt.
Right.
So, you know, despite this really big blow, it does feel like they're on a more sustainable path.
Yeah, it seems like they've kind of netted out from all of this. So, I mean, unfortunate to see the layoffs, but hopefully they can get back on track. Next, Microsoft is getting closer to being password-free. The company rolled out a passkey support for all customer accounts, allowing users to log into Microsoft apps and websites without a password. Fancy that. Now do that for every other platform I have to log into, please.
I just want to note that that's really going to come in clutch whenever I try to log back into the Hotmail account that I haven't touched since 2008.
That's going to help so much because we all have it. I do too.
Yeah, I will never get access to that again, I'm sure. But if I can, this is going to make it so I can get back, I guess.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of Williams and Sonoma deals, I feel like, maybe in that time period.
Cannot wait.
Over to TikTok. Half of America apparently supports a TikTok ban, per a Reuters Ipsos poll, but U.S. public opinion remains complicated as ever, while 46% think China's government uses the platform as a spy tool. Another 46% say a ban would infringe on free speech rights. Ben, where do you stand on this?
I'm still deciding personally, which puts me in like, I think 28% is around there, right there with me. But just a few other numbers of note is that 90% of those polled just kind of assume that content creators are going to migrate to other platforms, which I guess kind of suggests they're not too worried about the creators in all of this. That said, there is also a pretty decent number, 45%, that worry that a ban would negatively impact small businesses and performing artists. So
sure,
I think those are numbers you're going to hear as, you know, the court cases begin, as we've talked about recently. And I think you're going to see the fact that there's this interest around First Amendment rights. That's kind of the grounds. I think you're going to see a lot of ByteDance's early suits taking that form.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of key factors going into this, I'm sure, years-long argument that will be played out. Next up, a rumor going around is that Nokia will re-release its beloved dumb phone that made calls, sent texts, and played Snake, and that's about it. The new version may also have a camera. Isn't that nice? And finally, congratulations to Krispy Kreme, which overtook TikTok, Google, and Temu as the most popular free iPhone app yesterday. Whatever those other apps have, it's definitely not Daily Donuts deals. So there's that for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're giving out a free dozen donuts for signing up for their rewards program, which you can get access to via the app. So
I'm downloading the app right now.
Yeah.
Today's big story is all about the sand industry, which is largely supported by an increasingly dangerous black market with hundreds of billions of dollars attached to it. But Ben, before we get into the gangs and the other byproducts of a scarce sand supply, why do we need sand so much in the first place?
I'm so glad we get to do a little rehab on the sand brand today. People don't want it tracked into their homes. They don't want it in their shoes, but they really do want all the things that sand creates. Mm-hmm. So sand is a key component of concrete, of glass, of asphalt, all these other essential building materials. As you mentioned before, it is the planet's second most used natural resource. That is only second to water. Without sand, society just isn't building a damn thing, or at least not up to modern standards. Mm-hmm. So it might seem like there shouldn't be any problem finding it.
Right.
There's broadly just a lot of sand everywhere, and I'm from the desert. Like, you can trust me on that.
Yes.
But all sand is not valued equally. Sand from riverbeds and shorelines and lake beds produce really the strongest construction materials, whereas sand from beaches and dunes and deserts is less suitable for these uses. In fact, when used, they could kind of create building disasters going forward. So, I think where things are taking a really rough turn here is that the global supply of that good stuff has been slowly dwindling for a while now. And, this shortage isn't an entirely new concept. It's popped up in headlines every now and then over the last decade even. But some new figures and new developments related to this ongoing crisis and its sheer economic weight really pulled it back into the foreground for us.
Yeah, it seems like there's not a lot of sand to go around, at least the kind of sand that we need to make these materials like concrete and asphalt and glass to build regular society. And, some cities and some countries have used different kinds of sand in order to build and have experienced a lot of problems, like the earthquake in Turkey last year, for one. But when we continue to mine these resources and continue to use this sand and take it from these places, what does that do to the environment around it, and what does that do to kind of the industry?
Well, let's start with the industry for a second. And, we kind of just take a zoom out on it at large. We are using, we being humanity, 50 billion tons of sand and gravel aggregate every year. And just for a sense of scale, the BBC said that's the rough equivalent of covering the entire UK with sand. Wow. We'll bring it back into American terms. The UK is about the same size as the entire state of Oregon. So either way, that's a lot of sand.
Yes.
And that, of course, translates to a lot of money. The thing about this market, though, is that it's really hard to track. So there are conservative estimates that say the global sand market is worth about $100 billion per year. On the high end, though, some numbers from the USGS suggest it could be around $785 billion.
Okay.
So that alone is a story. We see ranges a lot in this job, but we don't see reliable sources that are $685 billion apart. And, one really big variable in this whole picture is that illegal sand trade. There's a lot of sand being dredged up illegally, being moved on the cheap, and a lot of that seems to be beach and dune sand, which, as we mentioned before, is a lesser quality. And yeah, I think it's a classic case. When there's a scarcity, there's probably a black market. And this one for sand is now estimated to be annually doing $200 billion to $350 billion in business, which would make it the third biggest black market in the world, behind only counterfeiting and drug trafficking.
Wow. Okay. So trading sand is up there with drugs and counterfeit.
Yeah.
I would not have expected that.
No. And just to speak to your other question about kind of what happens to the environment,
Sure.
it's bad. It's a problem. That sand is there for a reason. And if you're going to harvest it to fuel your criminal enterprise, you're probably going to create some natural disasters along the way. So, it's making some flash floods more deadly. It's actually doing the opposite in some places where it's drying up riverbeds. River sand is actually really critical in maintaining and replenishing rivers during dry spells. And also there's a crocodile thing going on here.
What is the crocodile thing?
So one river in Sri Lanka had so much sand removed that the river's flow was disrupted and ultimately reversed. So then it started pulling back from the ocean, and saltwater crocodiles, well, there was this whole river area that was crocodile free. It isn't anymore.
Wow. Okay. So the crocodiles have come because the lack of sand is drawing them in.
Yes. So this is really just a huge issue, global scale, and hard to combat. But we're going to need to, because there's research that suggests that the demand for sand is going to rise by 45% over each of the next 4 decades. And so it's not even a sure thing we're going to make it there. We're dredging up sand at such an unsustainable rate right now that the construction grade stuff, some experts are saying it could be gone by 2050.
Okay, that's really soon, and this sounds really bad. Is there any way that we can turn the tide, do you think? Or is there any other material that we could perhaps condition to use instead of sand?
So the UN is involved very much in this. They released a 10-point plan for preventing a larger sand crisis. And some of the things they're looking at as alternatives include ash. And if they can figure that out, that would be great. But that's something that, as they're figuring out how to recycle construction materials, there's hope. Germany is successfully recycling 87% of their household and industrial waste right now.
Okay.
And incinerating the rest, which then can become ash that we could potentially use for this. So it's not entirely hopeless, but it's just a pretty huge, bleak story once you get into just this massive black market that's transforming nations. Morocco, Mozambique, they're just huge problems related to this.
Yeah, it seems like a huge issue, and it's definitely something that you wouldn't really think of in the day-to-day. So I'm happy that we've talked about it today and dove into the details. And next time I see a construction project happening in my neighborhood, I may ask them what kind of sand they're using.
Yeah, and next time you see kids playing in a sandbox, get them out of there. That's their college fund.
All right, and that'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you later. Hey everybody, this great new podcast just came out and I can't wait to tell you about it. It's called The Next Wave, AI in the Future of Technology, and it's hosted by Matt Wolf and Nathan Lands. And of course, it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. You can catch The Next Wave with Matt Wolf and Nathan Lands, who are leading AI creators who are your guiding light in the AI and technology frontier. AI technology is transforming the way we do business, and the media landscape is a bit fragmented, but The Next Wave strives to be the leading podcast on AI technology and how you can apply it to growing your business. You can listen to The Next Wave wherever you get your podcasts.